go to Patrick Marley in Madison now. So Patrick, the governor just described this bipartisan support he's hoping to build for the government accountability reforms. Do you see any sign of that in Madison? It certainly doesn't appear at this moment to be a bipartisan effort.
Yeah, the chance that any Democratic legislators vote for this bill to overhaul the Government Accountability Board is about zero at this stage. They're going to vote for it in the Assembly on Tuesday. Democrats are just absolutely very strongly opposed to this. Republicans say that it's a great reform and will give us a better election system, a better way to oversee the ethics of public officials. But there's just no agreement at all between the parties.
Yeah, I mean, so the governor in his comments, he was talking about how he wants to get local clerks involved, but does much in this bill affect how they do their job, or is it more just the board and the overseeing, the higher level sort of things that are affected?
Well, so the Accountability Board has two major roles. They run elections in the state, and they oversee ethics and lobbying laws and campaign finance laws. They're going to split those into two agencies. So there will be one agency dedicated to elections. It'll be 6 members, 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and that'll include 2 former clerks, 1 from each party. So the feeling there among the Republicans is that you'll have the input of the local clerks, because they have been frustrated over the years with the number of changes that have been made to the way we would conduct elections. Not necessarily that they thought it was good policy or bad policy, just that they thought there was too much change too close to elections. And so the feeling is that if you have those voices there at the table of the folks who run elections day to day, they can say, we need more time for this, or we can cut down on some bureaucracy here or there, we can prevent voter fraud in some ways.
All right, let me ask you, Dan. So in this past, when the boards, these 2 boards, we used to have 2 boards, and they were basically merged and became one board, there was more bipartisan support back then, right?
There was a great deal of frustration at that point with how the Elections Board and the Ethics Board worked. They were overtly political, and you could count heads and say this many Democrats are on the board, this number of Republicans, they're likely to do this, they're likely to do that. And there was a lot of frustration because they didn't do much of anything. There would be a stalemate, or if there were action, it was always political. And both Republicans and Democrats favored this more independent. I won't say independent because it's run by judges, but judges, as we know, have outlooks and perspectives and political biases. But this time around, it's obviously driven by the Republicans. And this isn't about the government accountability so much. It's primarily about the John Doe investigations of Scott Walker and the Republicans. And this is one of their attempts to fight back at that and to prevent any similar John Doe from occurring again.
Right. So how do you think that plays with the public if there's this bipartisan support for the board, and now there's one side wanting to undo it seemingly for some advantage to themselves?
Truthfully, I don't think the majority of people in the public have any idea what a government accountability board is in the first place. They might know what a John Doe investigation is and what the outcome is from the board, but it's a very much an inside baseball thing, but it's something that the Republicans care deeply about because it affected them, affected careers. People went to prison over some of this stuff, and so they care about the issue. There was someone at the Cap Times who did an open records request of Robin Voss's office who said he heard more about this issue than any other issue over the past 2 years. And she discovered that he had received a total of 13 emails on the topic. So it doesn't seem like there's overwhelming public concern about this.
Right, yeah. I mean, Patrick, what's your sense on that point? I mean, if there isn't that concern, then there's probably maybe not going to be much blowback either if it does go through.
Right. I think people who are really involved in politics and paying close attention and are partisans are going to have strong feelings. The Republicans are going to think it's great. The Democrats are going to think it's terrible. But I agree with Dan that the broad class of people in the state aren't paying attention at this level and are not going to have an opinion about it. And the new board, the old board, the existing board is supposed to be nonpartisan. The new board will be evenly split between Democrats and Republicans. So I think people won't initially look at that and say that it's a partisan takeover. It'll look like it's evenly balanced. I think where the public is going to start paying attention and caring is how this thing is rolled out. It's going to come into effect in the middle of next year, a few months before a major election. If there are problems with the election, then I think people are going to be looking to the agency that runs it and questioning why that's happening. The truth be told, if things go without a hitch, it probably won't be noticed at all. But if any kinds of problems that emerge with the transition to these new boards, people will be looking at that, much like you saw with Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, which got off the ground really fast and encountered a number of problems and has kind of been a problem
and
for
actually,
Republicans in the years since.
A story you wrote about, no one really cares who runs the city election commission, but when the city election commissioner had a number of problems, then a lot of people cared about the outcome or the result.
That's a little walk down memory lane from my city hall days.
The more interesting thing to me is when Walker was on the road running for president, I'd said on several occasions we had 2 governors instead of 1, and that was Senator Fitzgerald and Assembly Speaker Robin Voss. It's still their agenda that's driving these things. Walker's gotten on board and said he supports these reforms. He's also said he supports these civil service changes. But again, these are not his original ideas, and their agenda is being pushed by very conservative Republicans. And his most recent polling numbers, showing he was at 37%, shows that the moderates in the state have moved away from him. And I'm interested in seeing, and maybe Patrick is as well, what he's going to do on his own to try to win back those people. So far in the months since he's dropped out, I haven't seen very much that he's done to reach out to the middle.